Okay, I kid you not, when I tell you, my jaw was on the floor at some of these parts because I was like, guys, no way is dating this bad in 2024. Are we joking? Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, this is a little bit of an urgent video. I watched Love is Blind season 7 and my jaw was on the floor. So I started posting a little bit behind the scenes of like certain parts of Love is Blind season 7 and what I thought about it. And then I was like, I'm just gonna make a whole video and we're gonna talk about the things that we can actually learn when it comes to romantic relationships from Love is Blind season 7. Huge disclaimer, guys. I don't know the people personally from Love is Blind, and also I've never been on the Love is Blind experience. So, you know, their experiences are their own. They're very unique. We will actually never know what it feels like to be on Love is Blind. So please, everything that I say here, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not questioning the character of these people at all, but we're just using this as an example to allow us to learn something from this experience and not repeat these toxic patterns. Also, guys, it's gonna be kind of like a chit chat video, so comment down below if there are certain parts that like I missed or you want my input on it, and also tell me what you guys think. What do you guys think about this season? Like, have you been enjoying it? Are there certain parts or certain lessons that we can take from it? Let's cultivate a community down there and allow ourselves to just learn from all these experiences and cultivate great relationships for ourselves. So we're all snuggled up today in our blanket, so thank you for joining. Grab a cute drink, no pencil and paper, and let's talk all about Love is Blind season 7. I kid you not, guys, when I watched this season, my jaw was so on the floor because I'm like, no way is dating this bad right now. Honestly, I'm ready to get into this. Let's get into it together. Grab your cute drink and let's discuss everything to do with this season. Also, guys, I can't remember names to save my life, so I'm gonna try my best to remember the people's names, and I'm gonna put the timestamp somewhere on the screen here of the certain part that I'm talking about. All right, we're gonna start with the first situation that literally had me in baffles, which is the Leo, Brittany, and Hannah situation. Okay, so just a little refresher. Basically, Leo had a connection with Brittany and Hannah. Brittany's only connection was Leo, and Hannah's connections were Leo and Nikki D. And basically, Leo was unable to give both Hannah and Brittany kind of a clear understanding of like what he wanted to do. He has a conversation with Brittany and he tells her, you know, I'm not clear yet, of course. I'm gonna like figure this out later. I'll let you know tomorrow. I'm gonna sleep on it. And then he has a conversation with Hannah where Hannah basically tries to break things off with him. And then he proceeds to go, you know, I love you, I wanna be with you, like I wanna marry you. If I told you I wanted to marry you right now, would you say yes? And like all these things to Hannah, and she gets super overwhelmed by it. And she says, well, you weren't clear with me. And so, you know, Nikki D already told me that he loves me and that's the connection that I wanna pursue. But she felt kind of, you know, overwhelmed, of course. Like who wouldn't feel overwhelmed in that situation? Flash forward to the next day, basically Leo does a 180 with Hannah and tells her that she's not his connection, she's not the person for him, he wants to be with Brittany, that's the person he's always wanted to be with, etc. A few things I want to note from this situation is, do you guys recall the part where Brittany had that letter that she wrote to Leo and she was basically listing out how, you know, she enjoyed their connection, but she felt like deep down inside her something wasn't right? This really sparked something in me because, guys, our intuition is one of the biggest things we have. And trusting your intuition is so important because your intuition is literally feelings trying to express themselves to you. Our intuition is almost always correct. Guys, I have had an on and off battle with my intuition. Like there were times where my intuition would tell me something and I would be like, no, I'm not going to listen to my intuition because it's not correct or whatever, because I so wanted a situation to go the way I wanted it to go. But guys, literally 9 times out of 10, I even want to kind of say 10 times out of 10, my intuition has always been correct about situations, people, everything like that. And the way that Brittany literally knew something was wrong with Leo, and she didn't choose to listen to her intuition though, because after that episode, you guys saw they ended up being together, but breaking it off very shortly after. So this is a very clear kind of example of letting us know to really listen to our intuition and listen to the things that we're feeling, because our feelings have merit and we should really tune into that, tune into ourselves and pay attention to what those are trying to tell us. Another clear example here is the way that Leo treated Hannah when they saw each other again and the 180 behavior that he exhibited. So personally for me, I've dated a Leo before. I've dated a guy that was very similar to Leo where, you know, very financially abundant, but extremely emotionally bankrupt. And when you deal with people like this, they are very insecure in themselves. They are very, you know, unable to really be emotionally available, unable to have that sense of security in themselves. And so they project their insecurities onto you and make you feel like you're less than. How many times, guys, have we been in situations with guys where, you know, let's say they're rejected or they feel a sense of rejection and they portray portray that onto us. Or guys, when you've been dealing with girls, maybe there have been situations where you rejected a girl and she basically came back and was like, yeah, actually, it wasn't you to begin with anyways. That is a clear sign of that person projecting their insecurities onto you. And at the end of the day, a lot of people do that because it feeds their insecurity to make you feel less than. And you know what? I will say something. Even the people with the strongest level of self-love, strongest sense of self, will still feel bad in situations like that. And that's completely okay. And in that situation, you could really see on Hannah's face how she was feeling, because she was like, wait, what? Like, you were literally telling me yesterday that you were so into me and you wanted to marry me, and now all of a sudden you're into Brittany? Why didn't you say that the day before? And I completely agree with her, but this is what people that, have those insecurities and really rely on their external factors for their sense of validation. So if you see yourself ever in a situation like that where a person flips their narrative onto you or projects any type of insecurity, any type of lack of sense of self, lack of sense of self-love, understand that that doesn't come from you. It comes from them and their lack within themselves, and it has nothing to do with you. I also want to note the slightly manipulative behavior that came on the side of Leo towards Hannah, where, do you guys remember the conversation the night before where he was like, oh, Hannah, but like, how do you feel about us? And she's like, no, Leo, I asked you how you feel and you're not telling me, but he pushed and continued to try to get an answer from her. That is a clear sign of manipulative behavior on his side towards her. And a lot of people who don't want to own up and don't want to seem like the bad guy will do that to you. They'll try to basically have you answer and have you be put in a place where you actually shouldn't be in the first place, because you wouldn't be there if they just had been clear with their intentions and clear in terms of what they wanted. And in this situation, we can learn two things on both Leo's side and Hannah's side. On Hannah's side, we shouldn't be accepting behavior like that. We shouldn't be accepting people manipulating and gaslighting us. And on Leo's side, we learn that it's very important to be in tune with ourselves, in tune with our emotions, in tune with who we are as a person and our sense of self, so we can make decisions that are actually correct for us and not hold ourselves hostage and those around us to our lack of decision making. So it's super important that we take these two lessons from this situation, and also Brittany's lesson and how she taught us to really trust our intuition. All right, moving on to Garrett. So there was a part in the pods where Monica and Garrett were having a chat, and Garrett basically tells her that he was previously a cheater. And I really wanted to talk about this, guys, because what do you guys think? Do you guys think that you can date a cheater? Do you guys think that it is worthwhile to date a cheater? And I'll give you guys my 2 cents. A person who is a cheater, I would go about it in this way. So first off, I would want to know when they were a cheater. Like, did they cheat now at the age of like within their 20s or 30s? Like, when did they cheat? If this is something like back when they were like 16 years old, that's still not an excuse, but we'd want to kind of know it in the context. And I'd also want to know what they did following the cheating. So after the cheating, did they go out and like date a ton of other people, or did they take time to themselves and really like heal from that situation and heal from their trauma from that situation? Something else that I would take is the way that they treat me, and how all of those 3 things that I mentioned kind of like come together, and see the mesh and dynamic of those 3 types of areas that I just spoke about. Personally, for me, because we're spilling the tea here, I personally would not date a cheater. I do believe that once a cheater, always a cheater. But of course, this is life. It's not always black and white, right? Like, there are gray areas, and there are areas where we should make proper assessments and not just judge people. And so this is a process that I would go through in terms of like judging if that person is in a place where we can proceed with the relationship, or if I should, maybe not pursue that. What I will say is, if you're in a situation where you're talking to somebody who previously cheated, please be cautious. Look for those like yellow, orange flags. Maybe they're not necessarily red, but they're not necessarily green either, girl. So please watch out for those and really like protect your heart, Make sure that you're analyzing the situation correctly. You're making sure that this is in fact something that you want to pursue, and just be careful in the process. Okay, next situation, the duck situation. Guys, this part had me floored. My jaw was on the floor at this part, and this is what actually prompted me to want to film this video, because I realized while watching that scene, which, guys, my heart broke in that scene. I don't know, did you guys feel the same way? Because I quite literally felt so bad for Nikki D. Nick. I felt so bad because, you know what? In that situation, I'll give you guys a little recap of what happened. So Nick and Hannah were on the beach, and they were sitting down, and Hannah and him were having a conversation, and Hannah looks over at these like little ducks that were there on the beach, and she's like, oh, what are those ducks for? And then Nick was like, oh, I really wanted to go ride one. And then she was like, oh, but like, if you do that, it's going to give me the ick. And he decided to go do it anyways. And a lady that was there also was like, oh, are you going on the duck? And he's like, yeah, do you want to join me? And mind you, this lady was like old, okay? She wasn't like young and like being kind of flirtatious with him. I didn't see it that way. Did you guys see it that way? And basically basically what happened is he gets on this with this lady and they race each other, and she makes like a remark about Hannah, and Hannah's basically like screaming to Nick, saying Nick, and then the lady says, oh, you're jealous, like don't be jealous, woman. And then Hannah takes offense from that. Okay, so let's break this down in a few different areas here and discuss all of it. First off, the ick. I'm just gonna say this. Why do we get the ick over the most superficial things nowadays? Are we really getting the ick over a guy riding a duck on a vacation that he's on right now and just trying to have fun? Guys, we should not be getting the ick over things like this. We should be getting the ick over emotional unavailability, somebody not respecting us, somebody not respecting our personal space and our time, somebody being disrespectful in terms of how they treat us. That is what we should be getting the ick from, not a person just trying to have fun and express themselves on a duck. This clearly just showed me that our society and the way that we look at people and the way that we judge people is so superficial. It's not fair to that person and the dating world that you're in right now. Understand that different people will do different things, and understand that not everybody's gonna be 6 feet tall with blue eyes and blonde hair and have a trust fund and all those things, right? There's still wonderful, beautiful people out there that may be better matches for you than the super tall, beautiful Dolce & Gabbana man. So please keep an open mind and have your icks transformed to things that actually matter. Like, let's say you date that Dolce & Gabbana man, okay? But he treats you horribly. He doesn't care about your time. He doesn't care about your emotions. He doesn't talk to you about your emotions. He continuously cheats on you. Are you still gonna date him because that's not an ick? No, you wouldn't date him because it's an ick to be emotionally unavailable. It's an ick to treat you badly. We need to transform the way we look at icks nowadays, because if we look at icks as a guy riding a duck on a vacation that he's on with you, his fiance, we're doomed. We can't do that to ourselves, guys and girls. So something else I wanted to point out here was the true authentic bullying that was happening on our screen here. And this is shown frequently in the relationship between Hannah and Nick, over and over again, with her continuous bullying of this poor guy who's just trying to be himself authentically. And like I said, this was really the thing that really pushed me to make this video, because when we date, guys, we should date people authentically for who they are. Be authentic in yourself. Present yourself authentically and allow people to present themselves authentically. And understand that if you and that person authentically do not match, you can leave. You do not have to stay in a relationship with somebody who you don't feel like is your match. In this situation, obviously with Hannah and Nick, this is a show, but this is a very clear example of when two people who cannot be authentically themselves, or let's say a person is being authentic with you and you're not accepting of it, or you don't feel like their sense of authenticity merges with yours, it's okay to leave. It's okay to move on from that person, because not allowing your partner to be authentic with you is one of the worst things that you can do to a person. It will slowly strip away at their self-love, their self-compassion, and everything that makes them them. And why would you want somebody to be with you when they're at a loss of themselves, or they're losing themselves in the process of being with you, or vice versa? If you are with somebody that continuously doesn't allow you to be yourself, doesn't allow you to, live without makeup, or doesn't allow you to have and express your sense of self, you shouldn't be with them. That is a situation that will literally tear you to shreds over time, and you do not deserve that. You do not deserve to be in relationships with people where they don't love you authentically for who you are. There will be somebody who will be a better match for you, that will be aligned with you, and that will love you authentically for who you are. So understand that, and understand that it is okay to walk away. And we see this over and over again in this show. One here with the duck situation, and another one between Alex and Tim, where Tim is literally just trying to buy himself a hat in Cabo, like they're on vacation, and Alex is like, oh, I don't like that hat. Please don't buy that hat. The guy is on vacation with you. Let him buy the hat. And I think this comes back to the level of authenticity and allowing your partner to be authentically themselves, and them allowing you to be authentically yourself. And if you feel like it's not a match, walk away, end the relationship. Something else I wanted to point out here between Hannah and Nick, and the dynamic between these two people, is you guys remember the note, the 8 things that she doesn't like about Nick, and how this was just kind of out in the open? Okay, so just full disclaimer here, I know a lot of you watching are women, but I do have men that watch this channel too. I'm just gonna say, if the roles were reversed here and it was Nick who wrote 8 things about Hannah, I'm sure the world would be going crazy. Every single person would be upset at the duck situation, would be upset at the hat situation between Alex and Tim, and would be upset at the whole 8 things that I hate about you situation. But the fact that this is a man kind of makes me think that the way we treat men nowadays and the way that we look at our partner, we have to have a little bit more empathy there. Understand that men are humans too. They have feelings too. They have, a sense of self, and they have authenticity to themselves as well. And it's very important to embrace our partners, embrace who they are as people. And again, like I said, if it's not a match, choose to walk away. And we'll talk very briefly about what I think is actually the key to sustaining a relationship between you and your partner. And we'll talk about that in this next section right here. All right, another part that had me completely baffled was the fight between Tim and Ashley. So to give you a little bit of context, basically what happened here is Tim and Ashley fought over something. And guys, if you know what they fought about, can you please tell me in the description box? Because I don't think I actually caught on to what the fight was actually about. But basically what happened was Tim and Ashley didn't end up spending the night together because Tim left, packed his stuff. They had a really, really big fight. And then he came back the next day. And then that was supposed to be their last conversation, but they ended up talking again. First things first, guys, fights and arguments are normal between two people. They're normal between you and your partner. Completely okay. But what I realized was something that just really kind of had red flags for me was one, when Tim said, Ashley, you should not call me by anything other than my name. And also the part where Ashley covered Tim's mouth so that he wouldn't be talking to her. Guys, this really just was a lot to take in, because I realized I was like, it is so unfair to your partner if you are, one, covering their mouth and not allowing them to speak when you're in a disagreement, and two, calling them by anything other than their name. It is very disrespectful to treat your partner like that. And one thing that really popped into my head in this moment, and if I'm being honest with you guys, I think this is the key to really sustaining a relationship between you and your partner, is treating your partner like a human being before you treat them as your partner. And the reason I say this is because when you treat your partner as your partner first, you basically put them at a certain degree or certain standard almost, right? It's like, well, if we have a fight and I yell at you, you have to tolerate that. Or because I don't like that hat, you shouldn't purchase it. Or because I don't like people running on ducks and that gives me the ick, you shouldn't do that. How about we treat our partners like human beings first? We try to understand where they come from. We try to understand who they are authentically in themselves and try to sympathize and empathize with our partners. And this was a very clear example of Ashley not treating Tim as a human being before treating him as a partner. At the end of the day, when you are with a person, learn to get to know them authentically for who they are. Learn to understand the little pieces of them, what makes them who they are. Learn to really embrace them for who they are. And again, like we mentioned, if it doesn't work out, that's fine, you can walk away. But understand that getting to know the nitty-gritty of a person, understanding their trauma, what makes them up, who they are as a person, will serve you in the long run. It's going to allow both of you to stabilize what I call a foundation. Let's think about it. Let's think about you building a house, right? So when you build a house, you have your foundation, and then you build on top of it into, the structure of your house, and then you can decorate the insides of the house, etc. If you take the time to get to know your partner and really understand what makes them them, you're basically building the foundation of your house. And then both of you can talk about communication skills, conflict resolution, what really triggers that person, and things maybe you should refrain from. So maybe your partner in the past has been yelled at verbally, and a trigger for them is when you slightly raise your voice. If you're aware of that, you'll be able to mitigate when those situations happen. Maybe it's just a matter of communication styles between you and your partner. Maybe your partner is an anxious attachment style and you're a more secure attachment style, and maybe they need to talk things through a little bit more than you do. So maybe you can spend some time understanding that and allowing them to have a safe space with you to come to you if they ever feel anxious about anything, so you can extinguish those fires before they become big flames. At the end of the day, getting to know your partner as a human being first will ensure better longevity, and also will allow you to uncover the things about them that maybe you don't like, and so you don't want to pursue them. That's completely okay. Wouldn't we rather get to know those things now instead of spending so much time with a person and then realizing after years that we don't want to be with them? It is so much better to get those things off the table and checked off now, sooner rather than later. Another thing I want to point out here is whenever you're in a fight with your partner, understand that it's you and your partner against the problem. It is not your partner is the problem, it is both of you against a problem. So it's better to approach things in that situation and allow, again, when you know your partner authentically from a human being level, both of you will be on the same page when it comes to things. Both of you will have clear communication and allow each other to have that safe space to communicate and to speak and to express. And in this situation, Alex should have allowed Tim to express how he felt, else and tried to come up with a conflict resolution. All right, moving on to the next scenario. So Ramses and Melissa. So basically in the situation that kind of happened here is they were having dinner. Ramses made a really wonderful meal, which was so kind. I love that. I love when people take care of their partners and they really express, a sense of love and feed into the love languages. I really love that. And basically what happened is Ramses and Melissa were having a conversation about Melissa's past in the army. And he was a little bit reluctant about how much the army really meant to Melissa. I think what I really took from the situation, kind of extracted from this, is the necessity of compromise when it comes to a relationship. When you are single, you don't have to reply to anybody. You don't have to have opinions other than your own. You don't have to consider things like that, right? But when you're in a relationship or you're talking to somebody, that person's opinions are important. The way that they think are important. And in this situation, it was such a clear example of Ramses not feeling the same way as Melissa about the army and what really makes up who she is as a person. And I think the thing here that really kind of popped in my head when I saw this was the lack of compromise, one, between the two, and the lack of acceptance over who another person is. And that goes back to what we just spoke about understanding your partner from a human being perspective. But here, guys, I'm going to tell you guys something. Before you go into dating, or for those of you that are actively dating, please consider making a list of what you want in your future partner. And what I would say to do is break it into 3 categories. The first category being, what are your non-negotiables? What do you need in a person? The second one being more okay, that's fine. It would be nice to have these, but if I didn't, I would be okay. And then the last category, just kind of your wants, what things you would want in a person, but if they don't have that, it's completely okay. And the reason I recommend you do this is so you get so clear on the type of person that you actually want and adjust accordingly to how you feel about people, and understand that it's okay if things don't work because your non-negotiables are being compromised. In this situation, if Ramses, this is one of his non-negotiables, it would be best actually not to pursue this relationship if he feels like it's not a compromise that he can make on his part. And that was kind of clear in the conversation that they had between each other, that this was a very, very big thing for him, and he felt that it wasn't necessarily something that he could overcome. But if this is a compromising situation, you and your partner, you guys are talking about something and you feel like you can compromise on it, compromise. But I also want to say here, guys, when we think about compromise from a sense of, okay, I'm okay with compromising this because it's not a non-negotiable. We should not be compromising on respect, okay? We should not be compromising on respect or communication or things like that. But let's say a person isn't 6 feet tall. Okay, that's fine. We should compromise on that. In this situation, wherever the military kind of stands for Ramses, whether that's a non-negotiable or something that he's willing to compromise on, will kind of dictate what ends up happening with this relationship, right? If it is a non-negotiable and he chooses, okay, well, you know what? I'm actually going to pursue this, that might have long-term implications. And this is where it's super, super important to be very clear on what you're looking for, and also understand that not everybody is going to be for you. It's okay if you meet somebody and they have all the qualities that you kind of want, but some of your non-negotiables are not being checked off. And guys, how many times has this happened where we've liked somebody and they're disrespectful or they don't communicate well, but they're super tall and super charming and super fun and super bubbly. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be happy with that person if our non-negotiables are literally not being met. So please take that into consideration when it comes to dating and understanding what you're looking for and what you're willing to negotiate on. Moving on to Garrett and Taylor. And guys, this is my favorite couple. I really like Garrett and Taylor. I think that their relationship is so functional. It's one of the most functional relationships on this season. Let me know if you guys feel the same. And there were 2 things that actually came to my mind when I saw their relationship. And actually, these are green flags. And the first one is Taylor deciding to abstain from any type of physical intimacy with Garrett until they've stabilized their relationship. And guys, I wholeheartedly agree with this. I believe that it's super important to abstain from actually having any type of physical intimacy with your partner until both of you have basically kind of stabilized your relationship. You have some sort of solid foundation of what your relationship looks like, and you guys have really taken the time to kind of get to know each other. Personally, for me, I believe that your judgment can be so swayed when you do become physically intimate with a person. Sometimes physical intimacy will cloud your judgment because when you're physically intimate with somebody, it releases a lot of hormones that can kind of make you go a little bit crazy. It doesn't allow you to have proper judgment, and it clouds your judgment. And guys, why would we want clouded judgment? We want to make sure that when we're getting to know somebody, especially guys, in the early stages, that we are on alert We make sure that those people are actually in line with what we're looking for, and we're not just liking them or getting attached to them because we were physically intimate with them. I personally know so many stories of people that have been physically intimate with somebody, and then immediately after, they got so attached and they couldn't understand why there was an attachment to them. But I truly believe that it is when you become intimate with somebody in that aspect that there can be a heightened level of attachment that isn't even supposed to be there. And at the end of the day, it clouds our judgment. And so I really liked that Taylor did this and abstained from physical intimacy until she knew for sure that this was the person that she wanted to be with, and they stabilized their relationship. Okay, something else I absolutely loved that Taylor said to Garrett was, the best decision for you is the best decision for the both of us. I loved this. Oh my God. I wrote it down the second that she said this. I wrote it down because I was like, this is beautiful. It encompasses what a secure couple should actually be doing. Understand that people making the right decision for them is the right decision for you too. You deserve people that will choose you, that will fight with you, that will fight for you, and that will ensure that both of you are in a place with the correct toolbox to cultivate a beautiful relationship with each other. And I'll tell you guys a very clear example of something that happened between me and a person, and this quote super resonated with me. So I met this guy, perfect guy, literally everything between us was so in line, and basically what ended up happening is we realized that he didn't have the correct tools to come into this relationship with me and allow for us to really build our house together and our foundation. And so we chose that the right thing was actually for that person to go on their self-love journey and do their own thing. And in the future, if something is meant to be between us, we would proceed in that direction and essentially cultivate the relationship when we both have the necessary tools to do so. And in this situation, which was one of the most mature decisions I think I've ever made in my life, guys, when it came to relationships, we both understood that that was the right decision for that person, thus being the right decision for me and that person and what we were trying to build together. And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. So if you're in a situation like this, allow that to be the situation for you. Also, if you're in a situation with a guy, let's say you're in a situationship and he's choosing not to commit to you, and basically he says, I don't want to be with you. I've told you this before, I don't want to be in a relationship with you, but you're looking for a relationship, let his decision be the one you take. Because at the end of the day, if you've already expressed to a person that you want to be in a relationship with them, and they have told you straight up that they're not looking for a relationship and don't want to be anything more than friends with benefits, you have a right to leave that. Their decision is the best one for you too. So leave the situation, choose not to be with that person, and allow yourself to find better. All right, guys, we're going to end the video on that high note with those 2 green flags that we can learn from this season of Love is Blind. I hope this video kind of broke down some of the key highlights of this season so far, and that it's taught us something. We can learn a lot from this, and these are just a few things I wanted to point out amongst so many other things. And as I said, if you have other things you want to discuss, go into the comments down below. Let me know what timestamps like shocked you. What were things that had your jaw literally on the floor, okay? Let me know what those parts were and what we can learn from those as well. I believe in you, I know you can do it, and I'll see you next time.